Buddhism in Love, The Art of Loving Right and Loving Deep. Chapter 1, Introduction, The Power of Love. Imagine for a moment. You're standing in front of someone you love deeply. You feel a warmth spreading through your chest, a connection that seems to transcend words. It's as though time stands still. In that instant, everything feels right, whole, and complete. But what if I told you that the love you're feeling isn't just a fleeting emotion, but something much deeper, something that can transform you, and the world around you? We often hear that love is the answer. But in the rush of our daily lives, love can sometimes feel elusive. We seek it in relationships, in success, in possessions, but how often do we stop and truly understand what love really is? What if the true essence of love is not something to be sought externally, but something that can only be cultivated from within? Welcome to the exploration of Buddhism in Love, Loving Right, Loving Deep. Over the next few moments, we'll dive deep into the heart of one of the most profound aspects of life, love. But we won't be approaching love as it's commonly understood. No, this isn't just about romantic love or affection. This is about the kind of love that transcends all boundaries, that changes the way you see yourself and the world around you. In the teachings of Buddhism, love is not just a fleeting emotion or an attachment. It is a powerful force, a force that can transform suffering into peace, fear into courage, and separation into unity. You might be wondering, what does Buddhism teach us about love? Does it offer a different kind of love than what we know in our everyday lives? The answer is yes, and it's far more profound than we could ever imagine. But first, let me share with you a personal story, a moment that made me realize that love, at its core, is not something to possess, but something to be. It was a day like any other, but something was different. I had just returned from a long trip, feeling exhausted, and when I saw the people I care about, there was this sudden rush of emotion. It wasn't just the joy of reunion. No, it was something deeper. In that moment, I realized I was no longer trying to own their love. I wasn't seeking anything in return. I simply wanted them to be happy, for them to live in peace, free from suffering. And in that moment, I felt the warmth of love, not as a need, but as a gift. In Buddhism, we call this metta, loving kindness, a love that is unconditional, unselfish, and boundless. And it's this kind of love we'll explore today. So, as we embark on this journey together, ask yourself, how much of your love is free of expectation? How often do you love without wanting anything in return? By the end of this video, I hope you'll discover a new way of loving, one that goes beyond attachment and longing, a love that heals, grows, and connects deeply with others. This isn't just about loving someone else, it's about loving yourself in a way that frees you from suffering and opens your heart to the beauty of the world around you. Let's start this journey into the heart of love, as we dive deeper into understanding the true nature of love in Buddhism. Chapter 2, What is True Love in Buddhism? Now that we've touched upon the power of love, let's take a moment to ask, what does true love actually mean in Buddhism? Is it the same love we feel in our daily lives, or is there something deeper, something more profound? In the world we live in, love is often seen as something we seek out, something we chase after, hoping to find in another person, a place, or even a possession. We're told that love is about connection, about giving and receiving affection. But what happens when that love is based on conditions, expectations, or attachment? This is where Buddhism invites us to look at love from a completely different angle. According to Buddhist philosophy, love is not about owning or controlling. It's not about finding fulfillment in someone else or in external circumstances. True love, in the Buddhist sense, is a love that transcends all of these limitations. It is a love that is unconditional, unchanging, and, most importantly, free from attachment. Think about this for a moment. In our everyday relationships, how often do we act out of desire, expecting something in return? How often do we feel that love is a transaction? If I give, then I should receive. This kind of love, grounded in attachment, can lead to suffering. We become attached to people, to outcomes, and to ideas of how love should be. And when things don't go as we hope, the pain can be overwhelming. Buddhism teaches us that love, when rooted in attachment, ultimately leads to suffering. Why? Because all things are impermanent. People change, circumstances shift, and desires evolve. If our love is based on something that is constantly in flux, how can it ever be stable? Instead, Buddhism offers a love that is based not on attachment, but on freedom. It invites us to love not to possess, but to share, to love without expecting anything in return. This is the essence of metta, the practice of loving kindness. It's a love that is pure, selfless, and deeply compassionate, but let me tell you a story to illustrate this. There was once a young monk who sought to understand true love. He had spent years meditating, practicing mindfulness, and learning the teachings of the Buddha, but he found that there was still something missing. One day, while walking through a village, he met an elderly woman who was sitting under a tree, smiling serenely. The monk approached her and asked, "What is the secret to true love?" The woman looked up at him with kind eyes and said, "True love, young one, is not something you can find outside of yourself. It is not about attachment to another person. True love is the love you give freely, without conditions. It is the love you feel for every living being, whether they are close to you or far away. It is the love that wishes happiness for others, even when they may never return it." The monk, though he had heard these words before, suddenly understood. True love, as the Buddha taught, was about cultivating compassion, kindness, and joy for others, whether they are friends, family, or even strangers. And this love is not dependent on anything. It is not dependent on what you get back. This, my friends, is the kind of love that Buddhism teaches. A love that doesn't come with strings attached, a love that doesn't demand reciprocation. A love that is pure and unconditional. This love doesn't bind us. It frees us. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to love right, how to align our actions, thoughts, and intentions with this higher form of love. But for now, reflect on this question: what if true love wasn't something to find, but something to become? Chapter 3, Loving Without Attachment. In the previous chapter, we explored the idea that true love, in the Buddhist sense, is not rooted in attachment, but in selflessness and compassion. Now, we will dive deeper into the practice of loving without attachment, a fundamental aspect of Buddhist love. But what does it mean to love without attachment? In a world where we are constantly seeking connection and closeness, where the bonds of love often seem tied to expectation and need, this may seem like a paradox. How can we love deeply and truly if we aren't attached to the people we love? How can we experience the full intensity of love without holding on? Let's start by acknowledging a simple truth: attachment is not love. Attachment is the desire to possess, to control, to shape things into our own image. It is often born from fear, the fear of loss, the fear of change, the fear of being alone. We become attached because we want to hold on to things we feel are essential to our happiness. We believe that if we don't hold on tightly, we might lose something precious, but love, true love, is free from fear. It is expansive, not constrictive. It is not about possession or control, it is about connection and freedom. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering. When we attach ourselves to people, things, or ideas, we are setting ourselves up for pain. Why? Because everything in this world is impermanent. Nothing stays the same. People change, seasons change, life itself is in a constant state of flux. So, when we cling to something, we are bound to suffer when it slips through our fingers. Let me tell you a story, one that has always stayed with me. There was a wise monk who had lived for many years in solitude, practicing meditation and contemplating the nature of love. One day, a young man approached him, full of frustration and confusion. The young man was in the depths of a troubled relationship, torn between love and possessiveness, between caring deeply and wanting to control. He said to the monk, "I love her with all my heart, but I cannot let go. I am afraid that if I do, she will leave me. I am afraid of being alone." The monk listened silently and then gently asked, "Tell me, young one, do you want to love her, or do you want to possess her?" The young man looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I love her. Of course, I want to be with her forever." The monk smiled gently. Love is not about possession. When you love someone, you allow them to be who they are, without trying to change them, without demanding anything in return. Love is a gift, not a chain. The young man was taken aback, but something in the monk's words resonated deep within him. The monk continued, "The moment you love without attachment, you set both yourself and the one you love free. When you cling to someone, you are not loving them, you are loving your own need for them. True love is unconditional, without expectation." The young man left the monk that day with a heavy heart but a clearer mind. He began to understand that his love for the woman he cared for could be pure and beautiful, without needing to hold on to her or control her. Instead of clinging, he could love her for who she truly was, and in doing so, he set both her and himself free. In Buddhism, this is the practice of non-attachment, loving without holding on. It's not about becoming indifferent or cold, rather, it's about loving without being bound by the desire to possess. When we stop trying to control the outcomes of our love, we experience freedom, not just for ourselves, but for the other person as well. But how do we practice this? How do we move from a love rooted in attachment to one that is free, expansive, and unconditional? The first step is to recognize the difference between love and desire. Desire seeks to possess, to control, to make things our own. But love, true love, seeks only the well-being and happiness of others. When we love without attachment, we no longer love from a place of need, we love from a place of abundance. The next step is to practice mindfulness, being present with the person we love, without any expectations or judgments. This means being fully aware of their feelings, their needs, and their journey, without imposing our desires on them. And finally, we must cultivate compassion, a love that is not bound by conditions, but that wishes happiness and peace for all beings, regardless of the situation. In the next chapter, we'll explore how we can nurture this kind of love in our relationships, how we can create deeper connections without falling into the trap of attachment. But for now, take a moment to reflect. What would it look like to love without holding on? To love freely, and allow the people you care about to live their lives as they are, without trying to change them? Chapter 4: The Role of Compassion in Love. As we continue to explore the depths of love through the lens of Buddhism, let's turn our attention to a quality that is inseparable from true love: compassion. Compassion is the very heart of Buddhist teachings, and it is the force that transforms ordinary love into something extraordinary. But what does compassion have to do with love? Isn't love, by its nature, already a compassionate act? Isn't love itself a deep care for another? In many ways, yes. But compassion, in the Buddhist sense, goes even deeper. Compassion is love in action. It is the desire to relieve the suffering of others, not just to feel affection for them. It's the willingness to support and care for others. Even when it is difficult, when there is no guarantee of reciprocation. In Buddhism, we learn that all beings experience suffering. It is the nature of existence. Whether it's physical pain, emotional turmoil, or the inevitable loss that comes with life's impermanence, suffering touches all of us in different ways. The Buddha taught that suffering is an inherent part of life, and yet, it is also the doorway to deep compassion. Why? Because when we recognize our own suffering, we naturally begin to see the suffering of others. And when we see the suffering of others, we are moved to act with kindness, understanding, and empathy. Compassion arises from this deep awareness. To love without compassion is like trying to build a house on sand. It lacks the stability and depth that make love enduring. True love in Buddhism is built upon the foundation of compassion. It is not just about feeling good or experiencing happiness in the presence of others, it's about caring for their well-being, sharing in their pain, and offering what we can to ease their suffering. But how can we cultivate this kind of compassion in our own lives? Let me share a story to help illustrate this point. There was once a wise monk who lived in a remote mountain temple. He had spent many years meditating and practicing mindfulness, and his heart was full of compassion. One day, a traveler came to the temple, exhausted and distressed. His clothes were torn, and his face showed the signs of a long and difficult journey. He sat down in front of the monk, looking defeated. The monk, noticing the man's distress, approached him with kindness and asked, "What troubles you, my friend?" The traveler replied, "I have been seeking happiness, but I cannot find it. Everywhere I go, I encounter suffering. People are cruel, circumstances are harsh, and I feel lost. I don't know what to do." The monk listened intently, his face filled with compassion. "I understand," he said quietly. "Suffering is a part of life, but it is also a teacher. It shows us the fragility of existence. And it opens our hearts to the suffering of others." Compassion arises when we realize that we are all connected, that we all experience pain in one form or another. The monk then shared a simple yet profound teaching: true happiness does not come from avoiding suffering, but from understanding it. When you acknowledge the suffering within you, you begin to see the suffering in others. And when you see that suffering, you are moved to act with compassion. The traveler asked, "But how can I ease my own suffering and that of others?" The monk smiled gently and said, "Begin by offering your love and compassion, not expecting anything in return. Love others as you would wish to be loved, not as you think they should be loved. Compassion is not about fixing others, but about being present with them in their pain. It's about offering your heart, your understanding, and your willingness to help however you can." The traveler, moved by the monk's words, left the temple with a renewed sense of purpose. He understood that happiness could not be found in escaping suffering, but in embracing it with an open heart. Compassion, he realized, was the key to transforming his own suffering and the suffering of those around him. This story illustrates a vital point: compassion is the heart of true love. Without compassion, love is incomplete. It's compassion that allows us to be present for others in their pain, to offer support without judgment, and to help lift them up when they fall. Compassion also invites us to look beyond ourselves, to see the interconnectedness of all beings, and to recognize that every act of kindness we offer ripples outward into the world. But practicing compassion isn't always easy. It requires patience, understanding, and a willingness to look beyond the surface. Sometimes, we may feel that the suffering of others is too much to bear. We may wonder how we can possibly help when the world seems full of pain and hardship. But Buddhism teaches us that compassion is not about fixing everything, it's about showing up, offering love, and being there for others, even when we don't have all the answers. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to cultivate compassion in our daily lives, how we can integrate this powerful practice into our relationships, our communities, and even our workplace. But for now, take a moment to reflect. What would it look like to love with compassion in every moment? To see the suffering of others and respond with understanding, kindness, and action. Chapter 5: Love as a Path to Liberation. As we continue our journey through the landscape of love and Buddhism, we now turn to a powerful idea, a concept that may challenge everything we thought we knew about love. Love as a path to liberation. In most of the world's philosophies and religions, love is often seen as something that makes us feel good, something that elevates our emotions and connects us to others. But in Buddhism, love is not just a feeling or a bond, it is a path to enlightenment, a path to liberation. Let's pause for a moment and consider this: can love set us free? Can love actually lead us out of the cycle of suffering and rebirth, out of the cycles of attachment, desire, and craving that keep us bound to the world of samsara? At first glance, this may seem counterintuitive. We've often heard that attachment causes suffering, and so, in the Buddhist path, we are taught to transcend attachments in order to achieve peace. So, where does love fit in? in the teachings of the Buddha, love is not the same as attachment. It is not the desire to possess or control, but the desire to support and uplift. The Buddha spoke of unconditional love, a love that frees the heart and mind rather than binding them. This love is rooted in compassion, wisdom, and equanimity, qualities that help us transcend the cycle of suffering and bring us closer to liberation. To love in this way is to practice loving kindness, or metta, which is one of the core practices in Buddhism. Metta is the unconditional wish for the well-being and happiness of all beings, without discrimination. When we cultivate loving kindness, we are practicing freedom. We are letting go of the need to control, the need to hold on, and instead, we are opening ourselves to the pure joy of loving freely. So, how does love become a path to liberation? To understand this, we need to look at the Four Noble Truths, the foundation of Buddhist thought. The first noble truth teaches us that suffering is a part of life. The second noble truth shows us that this suffering arises from our attachment, our cravings, and our desires. The third noble truth offers us hope, showing us that it is possible to end suffering by letting go of these attachments. And the fourth noble truth provides us with a practical path, the Eightfold Path, through which we can cultivate wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline to free ourselves from suffering, when we love in the Buddhist sense, without attachment. With compassion, and with wisdom, we are walking the Eightfold Path. Each of the aspects of the Eightfold Path is a reflection of love, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. All of these elements help us to love without attachment, to act with compassion, and to free ourselves from the bonds of craving and desire. Let's take a moment to reflect on a key aspect of this path, right intention. In the context of love, right intention means loving with pure motives, free from ego, free from the desire for recognition or reward. It's about loving with no strings attached. This is not always easy. It challenges us to go beyond self-interest and to love others for their sake, not our own. Imagine a situation in your life where you are asked to love someone who has wronged you. This person may have hurt you deeply, and your instinct may be to hold on to that pain, to seek retribution, or to harbor resentment. But the Buddhist path teaches us that to love as a path to liberation, we must release this attachment to pain and revenge. Instead, we are called to cultivate forgiveness and understanding. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior, but it means releasing ourselves from the grip of anger and resentment. It is, in a sense, a form of liberation. When we forgive, we let go of the chains that bind us to suffering. In Buddhist practice, we learn that love, when directed with wisdom, can transform even the most difficult situations. It is a form of empowerment, not weakness. It is the strength to act with kindness and wisdom, to help others and ourselves transcend the cycle of pain and suffering. I want to share a story that beautifully captures this concept of love being a path to liberation. It's the story of a great bodhisattva, Avalokiteshvara, known as the embodiment of compassion in Buddhist tradition. Avalokiteshvara is said to have vowed to save all sentient beings from suffering. But after countless lifetimes of compassion and service, the bodhisattva found that there were still beings who remained trapped in suffering. Filled with compassion, Avalokiteshvara vowed to help them, no matter the cost. It is said that the bodhisattva's heart broke into 1,000 pieces when seeing the suffering of all beings. Yet, through this immense suffering, Avalokiteshvara did not retreat. Instead, the bodhisattva used this pain as a source of wisdom. Through love, Avalokiteshvara found strength, not weakness. Love, in this sense, became the key to liberation, both for the bodhisattva and for all beings. This story shows us that love, when we approach it with the intent to serve and liberate, can transcend the ordinary. It leads us beyond attachment to a higher purpose, freedom from suffering, freedom from ego, freedom from the cycle of craving and attachment. As we continue on this path of love, we must remember that love is not just about emotional connection, it is about liberation. Love is the force that frees us from the illusion of self, from the constraints of ego, and from the endless pursuit of desire. True love opens the door to peace, understanding, and enlightenment. In the next chapter, we will explore how to maintain love in the midst of difficulty, how to love even when faced with pain and suffering. But for now, reflect on this. Can you love as a path to liberation? Can you use love to set yourself and others free from suffering? Chapter 6, Love in Action, Cultivating Compassion Through Practice. As we journey deeper into the heart of love, we must now turn our focus to love in action, how we translate the deep, spiritual understanding of love into the practical reality of our everyday lives. In Buddhism, love is not merely a concept, nor is it confined to lofty ideals. It is meant to be lived, embodied, and shared. Love, in its truest form, manifests in our actions, in our treatment of others, and in the way we carry ourselves through the world. To love, truly love, is to practice love every day, in every moment. But what does that actually mean? How do we put love into practice? How do we cultivate compassion and care for others, especially when it feels difficult or when the world around us seems to be filled with conflict? The answer lies in the practice of compassion, a core principle of Buddhism, and one of the most powerful ways to act in alignment with love. Compassion in Buddhism goes beyond sympathy or empathy. It is an active, dynamic force that moves us to alleviate the suffering of others. Think for a moment. When was the last time you truly acted out of compassion? When did you step beyond your own world, beyond your own concerns, and reach out to help another simply because you saw their pain? Compassion, in its purest form, does not seek recognition. It doesn't ask for rewards. It doesn't wait for circumstances to be perfect. Compassion arises naturally when we see the suffering of others, and we feel moved to act in whatever way we can. In the Buddhist tradition, we have a beautiful practice called metta bhavana, or the practice of loving kindness. This is a meditation in which we actively cultivate feelings of love and compassion, first for ourselves, then for those we love, and eventually for all beings, including those we may find it hardest to love. Through this practice, we learn to expand our hearts and extend love to others without condition. It teaches us that love is not just a feeling, it is a choice we make. A way of being in the world. Metta bhavana reminds us that we can choose to act with compassion, regardless of our circumstances. Imagine now, for a moment, what your day would look like if you lived each moment with the intention to act from love. What would happen if, every time you interacted with someone, you consciously chose to respond with kindness, patience, and understanding? This doesn't mean we ignore our own needs, nor does it mean we neglect self-care. But it does mean we make love the foundation of our interactions. It means choosing love even in the midst of conflict, even when we are tired, even when we feel frustrated. Slight shift in tone, more reflective, inviting a deeper exploration. One of the most challenging aspects of love in action is learning to practice compassion, not just when it feels easy, but especially when it feels difficult. And this brings us to a key Buddhist teaching, the four immeasurables. These are qualities we must cultivate not just in times of peace, but also in the face of adversity. The four immeasurables are: 1. Loving kindness, metta, the wish for all beings to be happy; 2. Compassion, karuna, the wish for all beings to be free from suffering; 3. Sympathetic joy, mudita, the ability to feel joy in the happiness and success of others; 4. Equanimity, upekkha, the ability to remain balanced and calm in the face of life's challenges. Both for ourselves and for others, each of these qualities is a reflection of love in action. Loving kindness moves us to seek the happiness of others. Compassion propels us to alleviate suffering. Sympathetic joy invites us to celebrate the successes of others, even when we may feel envy or jealousy. And equanimity teaches us to maintain our peace, no matter the chaos around us. But how do we cultivate these immeasurables in our everyday lives? It starts small. It starts with the simple acts of love and kindness we offer each day. It starts with the way we treat ourselves. When we learn to be compassionate toward ourselves, we naturally extend that same compassion to others. Let me share a story from the life of the Buddha, one that beautifully illustrates love in action. It's the story of Angulimala, a notorious bandit who had committed countless atrocities. People feared him, avoided him, and believed that his path would only lead to destruction, but one day, the Buddha encountered Angulimala on the road. Angulimala, armed and dangerous, shouted at the Buddha, demanding that he stop and face him. But the Buddha, in his infinite compassion, continued walking, undisturbed. Angulimala asked, "Why do you not fear me, Buddha? Do you not know who I am?" The Buddha calmly replied, "I have stopped, Angulimala. I have stopped causing harm to myself and to others. But your heart is still full of anger and violence. I am here to show you a different way, a way of peace and compassion." In that moment, the Buddha extended to Angulimala a love that was not based on judgment, but on compassion. Despite the bandit's past, the Buddha saw his potential for transformation. Through the Buddha's love in action, Angulimala was able to see the possibility of redemption. He eventually renounced his violent ways and became a follower of the Buddha, dedicating himself to the path of peace. This story reminds us that love is not just a passive emotion, it is a force for change, a force that can transform even the most hardened heart. Love in action has the power to heal, to uplift, and to bring about profound transformation, not just for others, but for ourselves. In the next chapter, we will explore how we can maintain love even in the face of pain, betrayal, and suffering. We will learn how to love not despite life's challenges, but through them. Love, after all, is not just about blissful moments, it is about cultivating resilience in the face of hardship. For now, take a moment to reflect on your own life. How can you bring love into action today? What is one small, kind act you can do for someone else, and how can you bring compassion into your own heart? Chapter 7, Conclusion, Embracing Love as a Way of Life. As we reach the conclusion of our journey through the profound depths of love, I invite you to pause for a moment and reflect on what we've explored together. From the simple power of love, to the transformative nature of loving kindness and compassion, we've seen that love is not just a fleeting emotion, it is a way of life. A way of being, living, and breathing in the world. Love, when practiced with intention and mindfulness, has the power to heal wounds, build bridges, and bring us closer to the truth of who we really are. It teaches us to transcend the ego, to see beyond our own desires, and to connect with the deeper fabric of all beings. And yet, love in its truest form doesn't come without its challenges. We've discussed the ways in which love asks us to confront our own fears, to let go of control, and to forgive not only others but ourselves. But through all of this, love asks for one thing above all: commitment. To love is to commit. To commit to seeing the divine in others. To commit to cultivating kindness, patience, and compassion in every interaction. To commit to understanding that, even in our flaws and imperfections, love can still flow freely through us, transforming not just ourselves, but the world around us. In Buddhism, we are reminded that true love is unconditional. It doesn't depend on how others behave or whether they meet our expectations. It doesn't waver with the changing tides of life. This is the love we are invited to embody, the love that is and the love that becomes. As we live this love, we begin to see that it is not just an abstract concept or a beautiful ideal. It is a living, breathing reality. It is in the way we wake up each day, in the way we face our struggles, in the way we reach out to others. It is in every moment we choose to be present and to care. And so, I leave you with this question: how will you live love today? How will you bring this practice of loving kindness, compassion, and connection into your life? No matter the circumstances you face, the beauty of love is that it is always available to us. It is always waiting for us to choose it, to live it, to share it. It's in the smallest acts, smiling at a stranger, offering a kind word to a friend, or simply pausing to listen deeply to another's pain. Remember, love is not something we find. It is something we create, moment by moment, in each and every choice we make. And the more we live from love, the more love we create in the world. Before we close today, I'd love to hear from you. How has love shown up in your life recently? What practices or acts of compassion have you found most meaningful? Leave a comment below and let's continue this conversation. Your story matters, and together, we can inspire one another to live more deeply and love more fully. And if you found value in this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you can be part of this growing community focused on spiritual wisdom, compassion, and love. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until next time, may you live with an open heart, and may love guide your way.